Hello, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
I'm enjoying your work. I have enjoyed your work on the first two seasons, and this third season is no exemption. It's just fantastic. And actually, I think this series goes even further than it had in the past. It's like it keeps evolving a little bit, which is fun to watch as a viewer.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they really upped the ante in the third season. They should be
yes.
really proud, Chris and Sarah, our creators.
So going back to the beginning, what drew you to acting?
Oh my gosh. I started dancing at a very young age. I was taking ballet classes, and then I sort of realized, I don't know that this is the lifestyle for me. But I love to perform. And, I joined a choir in middle school. And then my entry into acting was through musical theater. So I went to University of Michigan for musical theater and always just thought like Broadway was going to be the only place for me. And came to New York when I was 22 and, made a go of theater and did a lot of theater. And yeah, I think I like performing. I'm extroverted by nature. And I also love collaborating. I think it's a teamwork exercise. And I love that. I love laughing with people. I've just always loved bouncing things off of others and seeing where they're coming from and being fans of theirs. And yeah, it's just, you can't do it in a vacuum. And I really
Mhm.
love
And what about the role of Brooke specifically made you want to take that project on?
that. Chris and Sarah really made me want to take this project on. I got the audition. I was doing another show at the time called Graves for Epics. So I think it was assumed I was unavailable. And Chris had seen me in High Maintenance, which is a show I did for HBO with some friends. And he was like, I really want to see Helena York, and really insisted on seeing me. And I'm really glad he did. And then I met with them at 30 Rock and, read the sides and everything. And I was like, God, if I leave this and they just want to be friends, like that would be so great. And Sarah the other day literally texted me and she said, it's our 6-year anniversary. You did a chemistry read with Drew 6 years ago. And I reminded her that I met her the week before that. But I just love them so much. I think they're so smart, so gifted, so singular. So I just feel very proud to be on something where their writing is just, I would work with them at every job I could possibly do that they would ever have me. I love them so much.
That's fantastic. And you're so very funny. I figured you came from a comedy background, but I looked into your work and it's very varied. Broadway, drama. So has comedy always come natural to you? And was it waiting for this time to bring it out, or how does that work?
I was in college and that's so nice. Thank you. I guess that's a compliment.
It is, it is.
But yeah, I've always been drawn to comedy because my dad is a very funny person, and I just loved watching him make people laugh and like kill it at dinner parties, and would just listen to what that felt like and sounded like, and being in his presence was always really silly and funny, and I was always really inspired by that. So I think the bone was always in me, but then, I went to college for musical theater, and when you're 18, 19, you don't know who you are, what you're good at. And it wasn't until like, I think I played, no, I don't think I did. I played Mrs. Walker and Tommy my senior year of college. And I was like, I'm an actress. I'm a serious actress. And then I left college and pretty much everything I did ended up being comedy or like comedy hybrid. And I feel very lucky that I've done a range of work and created different characters and things like that. But yeah, I don't think it was until later in life that I realized that was like a strength of mine. Not later in life, but like at the dawn of my adulthood did I realize that like this was something I kind of naturally fell into. I just find life very funny and like people very funny. And I don't like to make fun of people, but I think being someone and embodying a skin that you've like observed that you think is very silly and dumb while they're trying to be serious is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, and the results are incredible. You
Thank
seem
you.
to be up to everything, or anything. You're not afraid to put yourself in a less than flattering light, both in the things that Brooke says, but also there's just these physical moments. There's one, as immature as it is, it makes me crack up. There's a scene where you walk in from a long day and you stand there farting. There's another scene where you're sitting around in pajamas eating nachos. in like the most unflattering of light with, well, characters are asking you to change your underwear. So it's not everyone would be up for that. Have you always been as self like assured and risk taking as an actress as you are with this series?
Um, yeah, I think so. I'm kind of somebody that just like throws their body around in life. Um, I'm not too much to my mother's dismay. She's always like, "Oh, Lainey, please be proper." And I grew up with two brothers, and I was just in LA, and my brother was like whacking on my stomach, talking about how fat I'm getting, and I was like, Jesus. This is just like commonplace in my life. That sounded really dark. It was funny at the time. But I think, I again, like, this is just a script and a project where you're just asked for like a 360 performance and so many things that you just don't get the opportunity to do. To me, these are opportunities. It's not like, oh, people wouldn't be willing to do this. Like, to me, it's a gift to be asked to do physical comedy. Like, I grew up loving Ace Ventura: Pet Detective and like Austin Powers and like really silly, goofy things. And of course, Molly Shannon throwing her body into chairs and like silly short skirts. And like, that to me is what's funny. And so that I have a job that asks that of me, at work, it's just the most fun. It's physically grueling. It's, but it's, yeah, I think it works, and I think it's real, and that's what I really love. I mean, you get caught up a lot, in social media being like, wouldn't it be nice to just be like hot and make a living being hot? But that's just not the path for me. I'm very happy about that.
That's not my path either, unfortunately. So is there anything off limits for you? You weren't supposed to laugh there. You're supposed that's where you say, oh, but
Yeah,
I'll talk
listen.
to my therapist about it. Were there any lines that you won't cross? Anything off limits for you when it comes to this comedy? Because this character, all the characters in the show pretty much stretch the boundaries of, well, go beyond tastefulness at times.
Yeah. Um, I don't think so. Unless I'm really hurting someone, I would never want to hurt someone. Like, I think that would maybe be a boundary. Like, I think there's a lot of comedy that happens, and I see people like get really delved into like personal aspects of their families and stuff. I think that that's a line I wouldn't cross. I don't want to hurt people. I would never want to hurt anybody. But other than that, like, no, I'm pretty much up for whatever.
That's
And
good.
this season I was up for whatever. I know you're through 7, but damn, I really was not, it was not a flattering 3.5 months of shooting for me.
Yeah, it's got to be, interesting when you get those scripts and you have to just look at this character who is just so, again, I don't know the word to say, but it would take a lot to just want to hang out with them because they're so all over the place. And to have put faith in your writers and your team to deliver a character with depth, though, and there's more to it. It's not just throwing comedy at the screen. It's a well-developed character who's just happens to be very complex, let's say.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Brooke, what drives her? What is it really, what is it she's really looking for in life?
I think she's looking for maybe chasing, enlightenment, as we all are, like that moment where you think, oh, okay, I did it. I'm here. And I think what she doesn't understand is that you're never going to reach that moment. It's never going to you're never going to get somewhere and think like, okay, I did it. Like, I'm doing good. And what's interesting about this season with both Brooke and Carrie is that there's this sort of always this sense of lacking, of doing well, but like I must be missing something. I'm missing something. I need to keep pushing to like find this other thing. And that's what's interesting about this season is that you've watched them try to like climb and do well. And now they are doing well. And yet they're incapable of not like double negativing, but basically, but incapable of not self-sabotaging. Sarah described when I would talk to Sarah about the season with Brooke and Lance, it was the idea that, she's like, I'm with this amazing person, this person who is so deeply good, and I am clearly not good. Like, I'm missing something. I'm not good. And so to spend the entire season in quest and that kind of self-flagellation is, what she's going through. And I think what's interesting about the show is that as wild as these situations are that we find ourselves in, I think these are a lot of really universal themes that people relate to. You know, I even use like being literally invisible at an industry party as an example. I think anybody in this industry has felt that way. And the fact that she leaves the industry and nobody sees her, it's just such a funny idea, but still so real, oddly, even though it's presented in this surreal fashion.
Yeah. It's amazing, some of the satire is just so sharp and smart. It's it's underlying, it's always there. So you can watch it, and like the simpler level, just watching these two kind of make their missteps, but also if you really pay attention to it, it has a lot to say about about modern life and celebrity and the fame
Yeah.
hunting that seems to be pretty much at the basis of everything lately.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just in our faces all the time what other people are doing. And we're just asked on micro levels all day to not ask, or comparing ourselves to others
Mhm.
all day long on a constant loop and scrolling and just like, well, I'm not doing that. I should be doing that. Should I be doing this? Like, am I doing the right thing? And I have these conversations all the time with people. And, I think that's universal.
Should we be rooting for her?
I think so. Yeah. I think people do root for Brooke in the same way that it's like the people she's hurting herself more than anything. So it's like to
Mhm.
get out of a cycle, a pattern, I think to root for anybody to figure it out is worthy. And also she cares and supports and loves the people in her life. She's just sort of sometimes too blind to see where she herself is. I also think to act like, not act like, but I guess to watch something and watch somebody fail and to not be able to see yourself in it at all, where are you? I think that's what makes such great TV, is that you get to watch people kind of live out your worst instincts. And that should be fun.
It is fun. It is painful at times. There's plenty
Yeah.
of cringe moments, but in the end, we're laughing. So that's what
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
Could you be friends with her in real life?
I think so. I mean, I really identify with her in many ways. It's really funny. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Brooke doesn't really have friends. She has like Lance and Shuli and her family, but you don't see her with a lot of friends. I mean, her one friend is Joe, who's played by the wonderful Ali On, who is now QAnon and comes in the first episode and gives this hilarious performance that, she with her printouts.
Mhm.
Um, but I think Brooke's really fun. That's what I want in friendships.
And there's so many lines that make me laugh. It's especially the writing is sometimes just out of nowhere. Like the Applebee's episode, for some reason, the throwaway lines had me rolling.
I know. I
Are
hope
the
everybody picks up on those. One of the best
Oh,
things about, just to give DAP on writing, and we're in the throes of this writer strike, and I'm so supportive of them, and I'm behind them, and no random computer brain could come up with this shit. I mean, some of the best stuff about these scripts, if you could ever were lucky enough to get your hands on them, is their stage direction and how they project how they want everything to be seen and timed, like through stage direction, and really funny little anecdotes from Chris and Sarah and our wonderful writers room. It's just like so funny. And the little asides, when people quote like small things to me, I'm like, God, I hope people catch these little things. They're so
yeah.
funny.
I think you have to go back and rewatch it because you're so invested in the characters that it's easy to miss. And also, it sounds cliche, but there's so many laughs that at times you're enjoying what you just heard and not catching the next. But
I complain
um,
about this constantly. My husband will watch and like laugh uproariously at Drew. And I'm like, well, now we have to rewind because you missed my joke. So rewind.
please, right now, and then
Yeah,
rewind
exactly.
twice. Uh, Speaking of Drew, how would you describe Carrie and Brooke, their relationship, both on the screen and working with Drew?
Um, how would I describe it? I mean, I guess there's that like ease, that comfortability of like knowing that this person knows you. That sounds really deep for like this comedy, but I think that they are able and allowed to be the worst versions of themselves in front of and to each other, because they just know they're always going to be forgiven. And I think, those are the ways we always take advantage of family. But, I think that's definitely true for them. And it's true for Drew and I too. Like he could pretty much say anything and I would be like, well, I think he feels like a brother to me now. And I love him so much. And if anything, the coolest thing about, it's actually sucks because we don't see each other at work as much as we would like, because our characters are off on these other journeys. So when I watch the episodes, I'm basically experiencing 50% of it for the first time, along with everybody else. Cause I get to see, of course I've read the scripts, but I get to see Drew play out this like insane journey. And it's just such a pleasure because I think he's so funny and I'm such a fan of his and his whole process. And I love him so much.
That's awesome. That's got to be a lot of fun going in and watching and seeing the work that you actually had no privy to it, up until airing. So it
really makes watching the episodes so exciting, because like that Pleasantville episode, to be able to go see him go do Emily Overruled with Dana Delaney, and that whole sequence was so funny. And Globby when he's like at the premiere in the like suit dress, it's so funny. And of course also I get to experience all these wonderful guest actors that come on and he's with, and I thought Dylan O'Brien was so funny this season, and Brandon Scott Jones is incredible. So that entire side of the show, I get to watch, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, the camera off joke was just so funny and so wrong, but it just, he's like, yeah, camera off, and then you're like, oh, don't do this. Oh, here he goes, and then it goes back for seconds, I believe.
Yeah, so funny, so funny.
So you get to work with Drew, as we said, but you also get to work with some more of my favorites: Molly Shannon, Ken Marino, Wanda Sykes. You mentioned Brandon Scott Jones. What is the environment like working on set with such pros? And do you get the room with so many funny people in the room together at times? Do you get that room, that opportunity for improv?
We don't improv as much as I think people would like us to say that we do. Again, these scripts are wonderful and the dialogue is incredibly intentional, and each beat and moment is created with so much thought behind it. So no, we don't. There are of course like moments and silly asides and stuff that makes it in, which is great, but there's not improv in the way. We get asked this a lot, but I think that's a real credit to Chris and Sarah, and again a writer's room of people that do improv and really funny, amazing people. That said, it is pretty difficult to try to get through scenes with people like Wanda Sykes, who I think is so funny this season and in every season and in everything, giving such a serious performance and talking about being Q and, turning to the camera and we got to make him a bad boy. I mean, it's so... She really killed me this year, and I love her so much. She's such an amazing person and comedian, and it's all pinch me type of stuff. Also, in reading the season, seeing how much I got to do with Ken Marino, like a road trip across the country, and I know you haven't seen episode 8 yet. That's a full Ken Marino, Helena Yorke explosion of nonsense. I genuinely love these people. I can't believe that they're friends and colleagues. I came from theater, you get asked as an actor all the time, like, what do you hope for the future? What are your dream roles, whatever. And, I could never have imagined this for myself to be with these people. And, so like, it's impossible to conceive of sometimes. I think sometimes I worry I take it for granted.
Have you learned anything specifically from Molly Shannon?
Molly is special because she's Molly, and everything that she does comes from such a place of truth to who she is. She has such a love of life and can find the funny in almost anything. When I leave work, I'm with her. I'm just in a state of like, oh, nothing really bothers me. I'm just this like kind of happy, floating on air type of person for, momentarily until I drop back down into who I am. But I think that, Molly has a real sense of like, this is fun. It should be fun. And that's not a lesson that she like actively teaches anybody. She just really, in a lot of ways, leads by example. And I was a new mom this year. And she was, you know, uh, she's always like stood up for her family and her kids in a way that, I find really inspiring. And it's hard being a working mom. And yeah, I feel like I've learned so much from her. It would be amazing to view the world the way that Molly Shannon views the world.
Yeah, I had the chance to speak with her, and she was just delightful. I mean, I was just like you said, her vision, her view of the world, and her attitude, just so peppy. I was like, you get to speak with some people, and they're just doing their thing, but she was just like
Yeah.
I was an old friend. I was like, oh, this is wonderful.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear that. That's exactly what it's like. Sort of leave somebody in the mood that they're in, and like no better person than Molly Shannon.
And going back to the writing and the improv, I think the fact that there's not that much improv, if any, is really impressive, because to have that all in the script and the foresight, and to come from, from the writers, like you said, we can't replace these people. It's a master craft that you have to have, and you can't fake it. And what they put on the page and have it delivered by this team of actors, and just so effectively, and so just, I was gonna say funnily, but I'm to be so humorous, it's just incredible. It's great to hear that it is on the page.
Yeah, it's the ability to delight and surprise, I think, more than anything. Things you would never have been able to think of yourself. It's amazing.
And if you could go to hang out with, like, I don't know, grab cocktails with Carrie, Brooke, or Pat, which one would it be?
Carrie, Brooke, or Pat? God, I mean, there's great elements to all of it, but honestly, Brooke. It's like that's the kind of girl you want to grab a beer with.
It would definitely be a fun time.
Yeah, you'd have to see Carrie talk about his projects all the time, or he'd be like posting.
Yeah.
It'd be a nightmare. He's like my last choice.
Poor Carrie.
I know.
Let me close out with a simple one. 3 words to describe Brooke.
Bold. Bold, misguided, and hot.
Perfect. Love it.
That's how she would describe herself.
You know what? That's good. It's good that you've captured the essence of Brooke here. But thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on the series and season 3, which, as people see, I think it's going to blow people's minds just how many chances they're willing to take this year. It's really been a great trip. So
yeah, thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye now.